Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Getting In, a college coach conversation. Feels like we're kind of right in the middle of the dead of winter with not a whole lot going on, not a whole lot to look forward to. Uh, don't mean to bring my depressive state to all of you. It's just that the weekend is upon us, and I yet again plan to be sitting on my couch, probably like all of you. But we're excited. I'm excited to do the show today because we're still moving forward and COVID is not going to stop the college process. Today, we're going to be talking a little bit about Ivy extracurricular profiles. That's something we've heard from a lot of you that we mention it in passing, but we have never really dug into. So we're going to do that today. We're also going to be talking about qualifying for in-state tuition. But before we get to either of those, I'm excited today to actually talk about an option we haven't really discussed very much on the show in the past, and that is how to get through college while you're working. And I have a really exciting option to share with all of you today, which is around working full time while going to college, in essence, for free, which I don't know about you, but that sounds pretty exciting in this day and age when you know you need to make money and you know you want to get your education to be able to combine the two sounds really appealing. So I'm really excited to welcome my Bright Horizons colleague, Brendan Nelson, who's an academic advisor or an academic coach, sorry, with EdAssist, which is part of Bright Horizons. Hi, Brendan. Thanks for joining today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. So, EdAssist is a part of Bright Horizons, as I mentioned, and the company works with clients all over the country to help them with tuition benefit programs. And that's kind of what brings you to the show today. And so I was surprised to learn that, in fact, because we often do think that it is really difficult to have a job and go to college at the same time,
Sure.
but that, in fact, there are options to do that and it won't cost you anything. So can you tell us a little bit more about this?
Yeah, sure. So there are a lot of companies out there that have different tuition benefits for their employees. And a lot of these companies have developed partnerships with schools, brand name schools, schools like University of Arizona, University of Maryland, Penn State, where I'm from here in Pennsylvania, where they set up partnerships where basically an employee, while they're working for even sometimes part time, can also go to school part time and have their tuition basically paid for. So they really come out of it with really no out of pocket costs, or at the very least, it's very, very minimal. Maybe they have to pay a couple of fees or for some books, but for the most part, they can come out with a bachelor's degree or even like a master's degree using just their company's tuition benefit and the partnership they have with some different colleges out there.
All right, which is uh, kind of mind blowing, I'll be honest, because, for example, I have a junior and he is considering Penn State. And,
Mhm.
when I look at the cost for out of state, it's definitely pricey.
Mhm.
But of course, one of the things that we'll be paying for will be the experience. If he ends up there, hasn't applied, hasn't gotten in, we don't know what's going to happen yet, but will be partially the experience, right? He'll be living on
Right.
campus, but not everybody needs or wants that. So let's talk a little bit more about what does that college experience look like? Because it isn't going to be a traditional college experience.
Yeah, it won't be a traditional college experience. And what we're seeing more and more, especially with adult students or students that are going to college for the first time out of high school, a lot of folks are working while they're going to school. And more often than not, they're going to be doing it online. And most of the schools that you can think of nowadays have online programs. And that was true even before the pandemic started, right? So,
Right.
like the schools I mentioned, even Harvard University has some online programs out there now. So, students will still be that take advantage of these benefits are typically doing classes online if they go to a school that is in their area.
Mhm.
Um, then they might be able to take a class here or there on campus. But those types of classes are can still be free and part of this benefit, whether it's online or in person. So the students that we work with tend to be adult students, but again, these are kind of benefits that are open for everybody. Even if you're somebody coming out of high school and working part time, you can still be eligible for these types of benefits.
Right, exactly. So we were talking before the show, and one of the stories that I shared is my son has a friend who at one point was thinking about going into the military, now is thinking maybe that's not right for him. He doesn't love school, but he's not against going to college. But right now, all he really wants to do is get a job. And so my advice to my son when he's talking to his friend was, let him know that there are some places out there that he could work and get a job as a student, a high school student, or someone without a high school degree or without a college degree, But he could, while he's working, if he decides at that point, I think I'm ready, I've had a break from high school
Mhm.
for 6 months, whatever, at that point, he could start to pursue his degree. So what are some of the places that are out there offering this?
Yeah, it's great too because it's really available for people across the country. It's not just big companies. You
Yes.
don't have to necessarily live in New York or Chicago or Los Angeles. A lot of these companies that offer these benefits have locations throughout the country. They're brand names, so places like Comcast, T-Mobile, CVS, Target. The places that you go every day, the places that are hiring for all types of jobs too. Whether it's in the stores, whether it's higher level positions, technical positions. So really, these kind of companies that are out there that have these partnerships, they're really located everywhere. And there's either even some companies that maybe you haven't heard of, but um, for example, like Medtronic, a large medical device company that has locations across the country as well. So a lot of well-known companies and a lot of really large companies with locations really everywhere across the country.
Right, that's what's super exciting, right? So of the places that you just mentioned, I can think of a number of locations right here in New England, where this student could get a job and still live at home, and do all of those things if he wanted to. He wouldn't have to move anywhere. And I think that's a really good point. But, if I'm listening, I'm skeptical and I'm thinking this feels like it's too good to be true. So how
Mhm.
does it work that you could be going to school and it could be paid for? How does that actually work? And why would a company or a university
Yeah.
agree to that?
Yeah, that's a great question, and it's one we get a lot. Well, if we're talking to folks about these different benefits that their company offers, the one question I always get is, "Well, what's the catch?" There's got to be a catch
Right.
somewhere. Nothing, no such thing as a free lunch, and really there is no catch. And if we really break it down, it's a benefit that really helps all parties involved. So obviously, the student and the employee, they benefit by getting basically a free education, right? Free is free.
Right.
Um, and that's one of the biggest burdens of completing a degree for most people is that financial piece, right? So when you take that away from it, that's one less thing to worry about, to stress about, and you can just focus on work and your education. Um, Another benefit to the colleges is that they're getting a higher quantity and quality of students. So obviously, more students will be driven to these colleges because of the benefit that helps the schools. Obviously, they're getting to the tuition revenue from the
Right.
company regardless. But also, too, they're getting a better quantity or quality of students because now they're getting students that are working professionally for a diverse range of companies, like I just mentioned. So these students are really bringing those professional experiences they have into the classroom. And really in college, you kind of learn from your professors, but you learn from each other too. So having students with such varied professional experiences really helps the colleges. And then finally, these companies really benefit. I mean, they already have these tuition benefits they're paying out anyway. So if an employee or student decides to go to a school with one of these benefits, they're more likely to persist and complete their degree. So now these companies have a more educated workforce and, quite frankly, a happier workforce because, again, financial issues in college aren't really as much of a concern. So really, there is no catch. All the parties involved really benefit.
Right. Well, for one thing that I could see would be if you are working for a company and they're paying for you to go to school, you're not probably going to leave, right? So they
Right.
they get the benefit of having a workforce that is loyal to them, that is going to stay for the length of time that it takes them to get their degree. Here's another thing that I think probably occurs to some people, which is, well, how much time do I have to give them in at the
Mhm.
end, right? So if I pursue an ROTC scholarship in college, then I owe the US,
Right.
military 4, 5, 6 years when I'm done. But what you're telling me or what you've shared in the past, not necessarily the case with these companies. You don't necessarily have to give them much beyond when you complete your degree.
Yeah, typically what we see, it's only about 1 year. They say that you have to stay for at least a year, which I think is fair. Most people are willing to do that. And quite frankly, at that point, by the time you're done with your degree, you might be eligible for some positions at that company. So we'll use Target for example. Let's say you get a part-time job working as a cashier at Target. It's a great way to
Mhm.
kind of start your career, and then you see that there's a management position to open up or a corporate position that might be opening up that requires a bachelor's degree. Well, now that you got that degree during that year
Yes.
period where you're staying there, maybe you get that promotion and hey, end up staying there because now you got a great job with this company. So yeah, like I said, employers do usually put at least a year on it, maybe two in some cases, but for the most part, it's nothing that they really have to have. I think folks are pretty happy to stay with their company because of the advancement opportunities.
Right, right, exactly. And their goal, on some level too, their goal is to just increase the number of people out there with their degrees that gives them more opportunity. I mean, they're not, I wouldn't want to argue that they're all super altruistic, but the reality is that everybody benefits from a
Mhm.
more educated and prepared workforce. And someone who worked for CVS and CVS paid for their degree might wind up at Target at some point, and the
Mhm.
reverse might happen too, right? And then from the college's point of view, you mentioned that you've got a workforce that's coming in, they're more likely to persist because
Right.
the money piece is not a challenge. But then also, I'm guessing that there is a certain expectation in terms of the grades that students earn for the company to agree to pay for it. Is that an accurate assessment?
Yeah, that's accurate too. So that again, that's a good requirement that benefits everybody. I mean, if you're going to college as a student, you really want to invest in yourself and making sure you're getting grades. Certainly, the company doesn't want to be paying this benefit no matter where you go if you're going to be slacking off and not really, doing what you're supposed to. And then again, from the college perspective, they want quality students that are taking it seriously if they have this benefit. But again, I think when folks are working and getting this benefit, it motivates them a little bit more anyway. I went to school full time. I didn't work part time. I
Mhm.
probably would have, not that I didn't work hard in college. I probably would have worked a little bit harder if I was also working professionally, and knowing that my company is helping to foot the bill and that the school is also giving me a benefit. So it's a little bit of extra intrinsic motivation that I think helps out as well.
Yeah, I think so. I have to imagine that it does mean that you're going to be a little bit more engaged in the coursework, pay a little bit more attention to those papers.
Mhm.
Like you, I mean, I had a part-time job, but it wasn't, I had to earn a certain amount of money to help
Mhm.
fund a little piece of my college degree, but it
Sure.
wasn't like my entire experience there depended on me doing well. And
Yeah.
if your company is paying and you have a certain minimum that you have to hit, I'm sure that those students are fairly motivated and those employees are motivated. I'm so excited to bring this to our listeners because it is a little bit different than what we normally talk about. Anything that we didn't mention that, or any other tips, maybe about how to find out who are those companies that are offering a benefit like this?
Yeah, sure. I mean, if you reach out to us here at Assist, um, if your employer has this benefit, or if you're a student working with College Coach, again, we're all part of Bright Horizons. So you can reach out to us here at EdAssist, and we can definitely point you in the right direction in terms of what schools are offering those types of benefits and which companies are partnering with. We mentioned a few, but like I said, there's always more. We're always kind of adding more to that list as well. It's kind
Mhm.
of an ever growing thing because they are so popular. More and more companies want to take advantage of these types of benefits, and more schools want to partner with those companies. So reach out to us, and we can definitely help you find a good fit for you.
Yeah, and I would also say, if there's a place, if there are some, generally it's not going to be the mom and pop shop, but if there are some better known chains like CVS, like Target, things like that, and you already have a part-time job there, you might just inquire at HR, do you have any of these tuition benefits? And if HR says, no, I'm not aware of what that is, send them to EdAssist here at Bright Horizons.
We'd be
Um,
happy to talk to them.
All right, Brendan, thanks so much for joining us today. I really appreciate you sharing your insight on this, and look forward to having you back one of these days.
Definitely. Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
All right, we're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, we're going to be talking about in-state tuition and how to qualify for that. So don't go away.